In collaboration with AB Capital Securities Inc., Global Strategy Real Estate presents to you the weekly stock market wrap-up, posting every Friday of every week.
皆さん、こんにちは。今週もですね、ストックマスターズの、会員様限定の生ライブ対談の時間がやってきました。今週もですね、多くの質問いただいて、現地のプロアナリストの方に直接聞いていきたいと思うんですけれども、この生ライブの方ですね、初めてご参加いただいている方もいると思いますので、少しですね、概要だけ説明しておきますと、この時間はですね、実際に AB キャピタルの現地のアナリストをお呼びして、皆さんからの普段フィリピン株についてわからないことをですね、実際に聞いていくという時間、これが前半に Q&A を設けて、これからですね、お話を実際に聞いていきます。で、後半はですね、ウィークリーラップアップという形で、毎週フィリピンの株式市場のマーケットがどういう動きになっているのか、そして、個別銘柄ですね、これが、各銘柄どんな今動きをしているのか、で、注目の銘柄が、今週はあるのかどうか、そういったところをですね、詳しく解説していきます。で、前半のこの Q&A に関しては同時通訳ですね、私と、家村さんの方で、同時通訳するので日本語の解説もつくんですけれども、後半のウィークリーラップアップはですね、ちょっと同時通訳が難しいこともありまして、英語でのやり取りになってしまいますので、英語わかる方はそのまま見ていただいてもよろしいですし、ちょっと厳しそうという方はですね、後日また、日本語の和訳もつけて、この動画をですね、会員様限定に、ストックマスターズの会員様限定に配信しますので、そちらをご覧いただければと思います。で、本日ですね、参加しているパネリストの紹介を少しさせていただきたいと思います。日本側のですね、参加者として、私、松下と、家村さん、そして、
はい、よろしくお願いします。
弊社のですね、現地のスタッフとしてマリアンで、AB キャピタルの、現地プロアナリストとして、レクスターさんとランスさんにお越しいただいてます。では早速ですね、今週の Q&A の方入っていきたいと思いますけれども、今週も鋭い質問いただいてまして、一つ目がですね、小型株の動きについて教えてくださいということで、まあちょっと家村さんの方からまず小型株の方についても説明していただきたいんですけれども、小型株のこの動き、そして何か注目しておくべき小型銘柄あるのかどうか、これが一つ目ですね。で、二つ目が、これもですね、結構鋭い質問でして、上場企業の、退場についてですね、まあ上場企業、フィリピンの上場企業で今まで例年どれぐらい退場している企業があるのか、まあ上場廃止ですね、している企業がどのぐらいあるのか、これが2つ目。3つ目がですね、ちょっと細かい質問なんですけど、GMAP という、まあ先月、私たちのストックマスターズで、配当の話もしたんですけども、そこでですね、今月の4月20日までに保有していれば、なんと 16% の配当がもらえるという株なんですけども、それがですね、先日ですかね、ちょっと株価が下がったということで、今、どういう動きを見せているのかというところをですね、について聞いていきたいと思います。では早速ですね、一つ目、小型株について家村さん、よろしくお願いいたします。はい。来週も、ゴールデンウィークですけれども、皆さん、ゴールデンウィーク、今年はマンボウ緊急事態宣言で、なかなか外に出づらいゴールデンウィークになってしまうと思いますけれども、弊社の方でですね、こういった形で、また来週も同じ時間に、生ライブやりますので、ぜひですね、もうおられる方です、参加いただいて、このゴールデンウィーク中にフィリピンの方はですね、ゴールデンウィーク中も株式市場空いてますので、取引できますので、またですね、この機会を通じて、 ぜひ皆さん株買ってみて、いろんな話を私たちに聞かせていただければと思います。で、わからないことがあれば、こういった形で毎週お答えできますので、ぜひですね、私たちを利用していただいて、現地のアナリストの話を直接聞いていただければと思いますので、今後ともどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。では、Q&A のはここで一度締めさせていただいて、後半のウィークリーラップアップに移りたいと思います。では、Mariam, let's get started our weekly wrap up from now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly stock market wrap up with AB Capital Securities Inc. And today we have Mr. Lance to give this week's stock market report.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lance, and welcome to this week's market wrap. So, first off, for the US markets, negative sentiment was prevalent for the US markets last week after the World Health Organization warned that the COVID-19 infection rate is approaching its highest level ever. And what further dampened sentiment was when it was reported that President Joe Biden is looking to increase the capital gains tax rate from 20% to 39.6% for those earning $1 million or more. And for the Philippines, some economic news: 83 billion pesos in wages lost due to the stricter lockdowns, according to NEDA. So the NEDA estimated that placing the Greater Manila area under MECQ for 1 week is equivalent to losing about 14.7 billion pesos in income, while putting the Greater Manila area under ECQ for 1 week is equivalent to losing about 19.7 billion pesos in income. Next, Philippine economy seen as region's laggard on virus spike and slow vaccinations. Manila is the third most expensive city to live in ASEAN, and that is despite having the lowest average monthly salary among the cities. So monthly expenses in Manila is estimated at around 51,000. Without rent, it's around 29,000, which is significantly higher versus the average monthly salary in Manila, which is just around 19,000 per month. And finally, lasting damage from pandemic is the greatest in the Philippines, according to Capital Economics. So Capital Economics initially estimated GDP growth for 2021 to be 11%. Last month, it downgraded it to 9.5%. And for last week, it further downgraded it to just 7.5% growth for this year. And for some corporate news, AC and Exor readies drilling for Palawan Block. Globe and Dito interconnect for mobile calls and SMS. Monde Nissin gets SEC approval for listing. So Monde Nissin is targeting its offer period from May 24 to May 28, with listing on June 7. And finally, Ayala Land expects recovery by the second half of this year. And Ayala Land Logistics targets 500,000 square meters of GLA by 2025. So on a week-on-week basis, the index is down 117 points, mainly due to fears of a possible extension of the strict lockdown measures in the Greater Manila area, as COVID cases and positivity rate remain to be high. So the index fell back to the 6,300 level, and for last week, net foreign selling accumulated to 4 billion pesos, and that's the 10th straight week of net foreign selling. And year to date, net outflows accumulated to 43.7 billion pesos, and our outlook for this one is still the same, given that vaccinations remains to be slow. It's not yet able to curb the very high daily COVID cases, as well as the positivity rate, which means that there's always the risk for areas with high infections to be under strict lockdown measures. So having said that, year to date, the Philippine stock market is among the worst performing in the regions, down 10.7%. And in terms of PE, so the average PE of the countries here is 16.3 times. So versus the regional average, the Philippine stock market is trading at a premium at 17.5 times. However, compared to its historical averages, it's trading at a discount. So its 5-year and 10-year historical average PE is around 18 to 18.2 times. So now I'll be discussing the COVID situation here in the Philippines, as well as the status of the vaccine rollout and vaccine procurement, as we think that vaccine rollout will be the key factor in reviving the Philippine economy right now. So far, about 3 million doses have arrived here in the country. At least 1.5 million have been administered. And the country so far has about 3,263 vaccine sites. And in terms of financing, the Philippines was able to secure 58.4 billion pesos from different multilateral lenders. So the government looks to have a budget of about 82.5 billion pesos for its vaccine procurement. So the government looks to have about 70 billion pesos from multilateral lenders, 10 billion pesos from the Bayanihan 2, and 2.5 billion pesos from the DOH. So assuming that 2 doses of vaccine will cost about 1,000 pesos, so with 82.5 billion pesos, that's enough to achieve, or that's enough vaccine doses for herd immunity. And this is the status of COVID-19 vaccine procurement. So as you can see, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Novavax, and Gamaleya, the Philippines have already completed contracts with them. While for Johnson & Johnson, it's almost complete. And for Pfizer, they're still finalizing the contracts. So assuming that the Philippines already completed contracts for all of these vaccine manufacturers, we have already secured about 133 million vaccines. And so for the vaccine administration, the Philippine government looks to prioritize healthcare workers, senior citizens, and people with comorbidities for the first half of this year. And just to compare our vaccination drive, so out of the 190 countries, the Philippines ranked 47th, and it ranked 15th out of the 47 countries in Asia in terms of vaccine doses administered. And for our market outlook, we still expect the index to trade with a downward bias, given that the COVID situation remains to be bad here in the Philippines. As I've mentioned, we think that the only factor that can help revive the Philippine economy is fast vaccinations. And right now, vaccinations remain to be slow. And as a result, the DOH is still inclined to extend the MECQ in the Greater Manila area for 1 to 2 more weeks in May. So we're looking right now at a support level at 6,200. And some key events: money supply will be on April 30, manufacturing PMI will be on May 3, inflation will be on May 5, and GDP will be on May 11. So again, for our model portfolio, it's still the same as before. We just, again, updated the figures. For the dividend play, we suggest to go for companies that have relatively stable earnings amidst the pandemic that gives high dividend payout as well. So Telglobe and Meralco. And again, given the worsening COVID situation in the Philippines, we included Pure Gold, URC, and RHI as a possible picks as well. And for the value play, these are, again, companies trading with price to book of less than 1, indicating that they are a good value investment. So Metro Bank, Security Bank, GT Cap, LPG, and DMC are our picks. And again, this is the resistance and support levels to aid you with your trading. And finally, the companies in the negative territory are the companies trading at a discount versus their 10-year average PE. And the companies in the positive territory are the companies trading at a premium versus their 10-year average PE. And that's it for this week's market wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, thank you, Ran-san. I have a couple of questions. Okay, firstly, new IPO. Monde Nissin get SEC approval for listing. So I think this is the biggest IPO in history in Philippines. And I have a big expectation of this IPO. Firstly, I want to hear the pricing of this IPO. What kind of pricing is expected, and the price is higher, reasonable, lower, this kind of things I want to hear.
Yeah. Well, on Monde Nissin, the indicative price is at 1750. But we've actually released our report this morning, I believe this week. We find the price a bit expensive at 750. Our recommendation is actually for the investors to subscribe at a price below 10 pesos. So if they offer the price at 10 pesos, then I think that would be a more reasonable, more justified price. Especially that, of course, as you mentioned, it's a big offering. The market cap is quite significant, and it's gonna trade more than 50-60 times the price to earnings ratio at 1750. So we would like the price to be a little, be significantly lower than the indicative price. I guess just to add as well, 2020 was an unusual year, and we believe that the 2020 earnings were actually unusual. It may be hard for them to sustain their growth in the following years, since their products are mostly, I would say, essential products that Filipinos tend to store up. So it can be like biscuits. If you're familiar with Sky Flakes, fita, instant noodles, graham crackers. So I mean, these are essential items that can be stored. So lots of Filipinos actually hoarded their products. So if the COVID situation starts to ease in the next few years, then it might be hard for them to sustain that the significant growth that we've seen for 2020.
I see. Thank you, Rex-san. And regarding this company, for me personally, I have interest for the business of alternative meat businesses. I think they have 20% of income sales from alternative meat. And as you know, the alternative meat market is have a high growth, and some company in US, for example, Impossible Foods and Beyond the Meat. Beyond the Meat is already listed in US stock market, and I think their stock make triple in last 2 years. So I think I'm a little bit looking at the alternative meat sector. Alternative meat product for them is have a kind of a hyper growth rather than domestic product. What do you think about the alternative meat business of them?
Yes, I agree on the comments. I think the alternative meat sector would be, I guess, a good opportunity for them to expand outside of the Philippines. I mean, it's a growing industry, especially with the shortage of beef and other meat products globally. I've actually read lots of articles regarding, I guess, the direction towards alternative meat. Although it might take a while for the Philippine market to absorb the alternative meat. For now, Filipinos tend to stick to real beef,
natural meat.
Natural meat. So I guess it might take a while to achieve the same amount of I guess level that we're seeing right now in the US. But again, if this is actually a good opportunity for Monde Nissin to expand their business outside of the Philippines with the acquisition of corn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rex-san. All right. That's all my question today.
Thank you, Mr. Lexter, Mr. Lance, Yumura-san, Matsushita-san for joining us today. And that's it for our weekly stock market wrap-up with AB Capital Securities Inc. Thank you and see you again next week.